WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning. It is 6:31 on Tuesday, September the 3rd. I'm Will Puckett. Thank you for tuning into Mountain News this morning. Well, it's been a pretty nice weekend and past couple of days for us here in Eastern Kentucky, but all eyes are on the Atlantic Ocean. Let's bring in Kelly McShane this morning to give us a breakdown of what we should expect home first. Kelly?
Will, what we are expecting here is more calm weather. We've had pretty calm conditions over the weekend, and we are starting off on a pretty calm note this morning. Those temperatures into the mid to lower 60s throughout the region. So overall, a pretty nice start to the day. A little bit of fog out there. WYMT studios can't really see too far across the street, so be very careful here in Hazard, as well as in Whitesburg and throughout the majority of the region as well. You can see that here on the visibility map. Plenty of places looking at reduced visibility, so take it easy on the roads this morning. I will have the latest details on Dorian as well as our extended forecast here in just a little bit, Will.
All righty, Kelly. Thank you. Well, Hurricane Dorian is still hovering over the Bahamas now as a Category 3 hurricane. It is responsible for at least 5 deaths in the Abaco Islands. Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas are bracing for Dorian's fury, hoping it remains off the Atlantic coast as it slowly moves northward. CBS News' correspondent Hillary Lane is following Dorian's path from Daytona Beach, Florida.
Hurricane Dorian kept its devastating grip on the Bahamas.
We are in the midst of a historic tragedy.
After massive flooding and winds took a heavy toll.
Complete devastation. Look at these cars, man.
The storm claimed lives and damaged or destroyed thousands of homes Monday.
Our mission and focus now is search, rescue, and recovery.
The U.S. Coast Guard brought injured people to Nassau International Airport while Dorian still raged. The National Weather Service says the storm is expected to approach the eastern Florida coastline later today.
People need to remain vigilant.
Millions of people over 4 southeastern states have been ordered to evacuate.
Get out now while you have time, while there's fuel available.
With Dorian's path uncertain, some have decided to wait and see. That includes the Gash family, whose Cocoa Beach home sits surrounded by water.
If the hurricane kind of wobbles and comes closer, then we can go inland a little bit. So that's kind of my reassurance of we're keeping an eye on it.
Meanwhile, a convoy of emergency vehicles drove south through Florida, just in case Dorian doesn't keep its distance. Hillary Lane, CBS News, Daytona Beach, Florida.
Now, hurricane watches and warnings are in effect from Florida to South Carolina. Now, as people in Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas brace for what is to come, Okay, let's try this again. Now, as people in Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas brace for what is to come and get ready for the next landfall, there in the next couple of days, help is being sent from Kentucky. Relief organizations from across the state are planning to head down to help after the storm hits. The Red Cross chapter in central Kentucky is sending an emergency response vehicle to Alabama, which will then travel to areas impacted by the hurricane.
So it will go into communities and make sure that those folks that are affected will actually have food. So we're excited that our vehicle has a lot of miles on it and it'll be heading out of here soon.
Now, more than 30 local Red Cross volunteers have already been deployed to Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina. The Kentucky National Guard is sending 350 soldiers to Florida. Right now, the plan is to have soldiers report to the Lexington Armory this morning, with soldiers arriving in Jacksonville Thursday. Depending on where Dorian moves, they may change their schedule. A group of Kentucky volunteers who just returned from helping victims of one natural disaster prepare to leave for another. Kentucky Baptist Relief will leave tomorrow for Florida. They just got home from helping tornado victims in Massachusetts. WYMT's Phil Pendleton tells us the crew is preparing to send one of their largest groups to the hard-hit areas.
No, it all depends on Dorian.
The reason for their response, but because of the uncertainty of the storm's path.
And we still may go to a location to make sure that we can get in.
100 volunteers are preparing for a lot of unknowns. The only certainty is they will be serving somewhere in the Sunshine State and will likely be gone for about 2 weeks.
We're always ready to go.
The plan is to get somewhere in the state of Florida, but sometimes just getting to the disaster becomes part of the challenge.
In North Carolina, every road into where we went would flood at tide time. And so we're again going to be working with tides in Florida.
The 100 volunteers will be clearing away debris with chainsaws, feeding people from mobile kitchens capable of cooking thousands of meals a day, and counseling people with the 2 chaplains going.
I just don't know, it's spreading really thin, but God always brings just enough people that we need in.
Smith says this will be her 8th relief trip since Hurricane Florence last September.
Well, I haven't yet hung on a cross and gave my life. And my Jesus did that for me. And I surely can drop everything and go when I'm needed.
In Lincoln County, Phil Pendleton, WYMT Mountain News.
Now, the plan is to stay in a church once they learn their destination, if one is available that has not experienced significant damage. Well, a shooting in Pulaski County left a 15-year-old girl seriously injured. Sheriff deputies were called around 3 Sunday morning to a home on North Lake Drive at the end of Dixie Bend Road. When they got there, they found the girl with a gunshot wound to the neck. Investigators say she and her 18-year-old boyfriend had a handgun that went off accidentally. She was flown to UK Hospital. An apparent stabbing sent one man to the hospital in Bell County. Troopers say they were called by Middlesboro Hospital staff after a man showed up with a stab wound. Police say they located a person of interest and found out the stabbing happened after an argument in the Yellow Hill area. Troopers did recover the knife from the alleged incident.
Apparently, troopers were able to recover a knife that was allegedly used in the incident yesterday morning. And like I said, the investigation's continuing. There's several more interviews that need to be followed up on before a prosecution decision's made.
No arrests have been made in the case, as the case is still under investigation. New this morning, we know when a Leslie County man charged with attempted murder will appear back in court. Late last month, investigators arrested Joshua Napier. They say he tried to drown a woman. He is out of jail at the moment. Investigators charged him with attempted murder. His preliminary hearing is scheduled for 1 week from today. Williamsburg police arrested the city's housing authority executive after he was placed on administrative leave. Jail records show 52-year-old James Lovett is charged with second-degree forgery and abuse of public trust. This comes after Mayor Roddy Harrison said the city placed Lovett under administrative leave until the city concluded the investigation. Now it is not clear what exactly Lovett did, but his charge states the amount of money involved in the crimes exceeds $10,000, but is less than $100,000. One person is dead and 2 others injured after a violent Labor Day in Frankfort. Police say the victims were shot at East Frankfort Park. It's just off of Main Street. 25-year-old Anthony Hendris Jr. was found on the ground with multiple gunshot wounds. 2 victims drove themselves to the hospital. We are told they have non-life-threatening injuries. A few cars were towed from the park. One had bullet holes. Police do not have any details, on a suspect, but they don't think the public is in any danger.
It was quick shots fired. It was like bang, bang, bang. We were less than probably 100 feet away from it. It's hard to have any thoughts. You are in a mine and you're just trying to get your kids safe.
Police are asking anyone who is at the park or has any information about the shooting to come forward. We will keep you updated on our website over at WYMT.com. Well, today marks 6 weeks since Black Jewel miners first began protesting on train tracks in Cumberland. Miners say with the upcoming court date, they are still optimistic, hoping that the outcome is in their favor. They say while they plan to continue staying on the tracks until they get their paychecks, they are praying they can go home soon.
People would like to be able to go home and, go to their beds and stuff and be able to go back to life. Because it's a hard thing sitting here like this.
The miners have another court date in Charleston, West Virginia on Wednesday. Now also today, we hope to learn the court date for Jim Sloan. He is accused of shooting a man Sunday outside the Front Porch Mini Mart on Highway 463. Sloan told us he acted in self-defense. The victim was flown out for his injuries. Right now, we do not know his condition or name.
Temperatures looking good for us here in the mountains this morning. Mid 60s to low 60s throughout the region. 63 in Wise, Virginia, 63 in Pikeville as well. Both Jackson and Hazard at 65 degrees this morning. And Williamsburg, you are at 63 degrees as you step out the door on this Tuesday morning. Clear skies overnight. Let that fog settle in throughout the region. A lot of folks looking at less than 5 miles of visibility. So be very careful throughout the region this morning. Give yourself about 5 to 10 extra minutes and be sure to use those low beams. Now heading throughout the rest of your day, we're looking pretty good. Temperatures into the 70s by the time we get to mid-morning, and then mostly sunny conditions, a few clouds here and there, but maybe a stray rain chance. I think most of us do stay dry. I'll have the latest on the rain chances throughout the entire week here in a little bit.
All righty, Kelly, we'll be back with you. Thank you, ma'am. And thank you for joining us on Mountain News this morning. Still to go as we celebrated Labor Day. One of our reporters asked what the holiday means for many of us here in Eastern Kentucky. Plus, we will show you how some folks enjoyed their Labor Day out on the water.